left, then we want the move speed to be a negative value, so he moves to the left. So we'll just save this, convert it if we need to, pop back into the game, find our enemy, and make sure we add our enemy patrol script once it's finished compiling down here in the bottom. Add components, and if we could spell things it'd be okay. Enemy patrol. No, not new script. Oh, if only my mouse would let me click things. Okay, so we'll set our move speed, say we'll set it to 3. That seems relatively okay. And we'll start him off moving left. So we hit play once the game starts going. There he goes, he's moving left. If we change this value, he moves right. Change it back, he moves left again. Perfect, that's exactly what we want. But we don't want him to just move into walls and then stop it. We need a way to make sure that he will turn around when he hits a wall and go the opposite way. So a very simple way to do that is much the same way we checked for the ground with the player, we can check for the wall with this guy. So we'll open our player controller script back over in here, and what we'll do, we'll take this whole all these little values that we had for the ground, and we're going to paste these in over here, and we're just going to rename them because we're not using them for the ground, we're using them for wall now. So everywhere we see ground, we'll just change that for wall. Of course, you don't have to do this, you could just leave it as ground. It doesn't matter what you call your variables, it just makes sense to logically have them sensible for your own knowledge. And we'll say private bool, not grounded, we'll say hitting wall. Perfect. So now, so we have that bit of code, and the code that runs these objects is back on our player controller. That's the grounded thing here. So we'll just copy this out, paste it in here. So now obviously all these values go red because they're not in this script. So we'll change this for hitting wall, and then we have wall check radius, and what is wall. So that's perfect. So now that way we'll be able to detect when we're hitting the wall, and what we want to do with that value is if hitting wall then move right is equal to not move right. So basically what it'll do is if move right is true, then it'll say move right is false, and if move right is false, it'll say move right is true. So now we'll save that and we'll go back into our game here, and before we try and run the game or anything like that, we have to create an object to act as the hitting wall element. So what we'll do is we'll just zoom back in here onto the player. We'll click on our enemy to make sure he's highlighted, and then go game object create empty child. You could also just create empty and just drag on top of the enemy, but it's nice and handy to create an empty child. So we'll call this wall check. Then click on our enemy again, scroll down here, drag this wall check into here like that. We'll check radius, we'll set this at 0.1, and then what is wall? Ground. And that's what any of these tiles are. They're all assigned as ground layer, so it'll check for those layers. So now if we hit play here, what we should get is the guy walks into the wall and then walks off to the right. No, we don't. Because we didn't change the position of this wall check, obviously. It's stupid. We want to be able to see where this wall check is at all times as well. So we'll make this yellow, say. And when he's walking... we have to click back here. When he's walking to the wall, he'll go to that and he'll bounce off it. And now, this time, when we hit play, he should bounce off the wall, turn around, and start walking in the other direction. There we go. As you can see, he didn't get very close to the wall there, so what we'll actually do is drag that in a bit closer like that. It's kind of a bit of a balance to see where you feel is like appropriate for him to get close enough. See what I mean? He's still a little bit too far away there. Try again. There we go. He bounces off the wall and he walks away. But you might notice that when he started walking the other way, the point's dead on the same side. And that's because we haven't transformed the player from left to right. Much like we did with the jumping for the player, and the other thing, we want him to flip side to side so that he's always checking the wall in front of him. And again, same as with the player controller back here, where did we do it here? Yeah, so we transform the local scale, the exact same. We're going to do the exact same thing with the enemy, but this time when he's moving right, the way we have it set up at the moment, he's moving left by default, and that thing is on the left. So what we want to do is when he's moving right, we'll say transform dot local scale is equal to new vector 3, and we'll say -1 so that it will flip him the opposite way. -1 for the x value, and then the y and the z will both be 1. They'll both remain the same, so that's perfectly fine. And we'll copy this bit of code here, and in the else loop we'll say, instead of -1f for the x value, we'll just set it to 1f. So now when we go back again, we'll hit play. Once the script is finished compiling, and he'll bounce off the wall and he'll start walking off the other direction. But oh no, once he gets to the edge, he just walks off the edge because there's no wall there to tell him to turn around. You could go ahead and add another little box up here and just duplicate it and pop it up, and then he'll always bounce back and forth between the two of them. But that's not necessarily what we want to do. We want to make sure that he can walk, he knows where to find an edge. And it's very simple to do that. It's going to be pretty much the same code as what we have for the wall check. So before we do that, we'll just add another object to the enemy here. We'll go game object, create empty child again. We'll call this one edge check, and we'll make it green, say. And what we want to do for this one has to be, just click on this here. This one has to be a bit more in front of him and drop down, so that he's looking for the ground. He's looking for there not being any ground, basically. So we'll save that. Just as good to always keep your game saved. And back in here. So rather than all this whole thing, we'll only need a couple of extra variables. So we'll say private bool. We'll call this one at edge, and then public transform. Not wall check, edge check, sorry. That's what we'll call that one. And we can use the same radius and the same what is wall, because it's the exact same thing that we're using here. So here we'll go at edge is equal to, I'll just copy this whole little bit again, just to save us some time typing. Please do, instead of wall check dot position, we'll go for edge check dot position. And so now we want him to turn around if he gets to the edge. So this thing will return true when it detects that it's in the ground. So we don't want him to turn around when it detects true. We want him to turn around when it detects false. So in our if hitting wall check here, we're going to add these two little bars like this. That means or in C#. So we'll have hitting wall or not at edge. So now when he's either hitting the wall or else he detects that there's no edge in front of him, we'll pop back into the game here. It's actually confusingly worded now that I think about it. We should call this not at edge. Would make a little bit more sense. So that's checking to determine when he is not at edge, and when not at edge is false, that means he is at the edge, if that makes any sense. So we'll save that, pop back into the game, wait for it to compile. We'll hit that play button here, and once it starts running, oh no, we made a mistake there. We have to go to our enemy and we have to drag this edge check in here. It's very important, or else he'll just sit there and not go anywhere because he won't know whether an edge is there or not. So now we scroll out, we watch him go, he finds the edge and he turns around. Perfect. And we go back into the game here and, hey dude, oh no, he killed me. That's perfect. But at the moment, look at him, he's just kind of sliding alongside the side. So we're going to add a super basic little animation to him much like we did with the player. So we'll click on our enemy here. We'll go to animation. Click on this thing to create a new clip. We'll just call this enemy walk, because he's going to be walking the whole time, so we don't even need to worry about giving him an idle state or anything like that. So in our animations here, enemy walk. We'll set this to, I believe the player was, his walk animation was 7. Okay, so we'll go back to our enemy. We'll set the speed of this to 7 as well. And all we do is go to our art, we'll grab our enemy, pop one there. And then, can we zoom in a bit? Yeah, and then we'll grab the next one, pop it there, and grab the next, grab the first one again is what we want, isn't it? Yeah, so we'll go stand still, one arm up, stand still, other arm up. So now we'll turn off that record button, go back to the game, hit play, and now he should be walking back and forward, all nice and dandy. You can see him, rah, 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 rah. So there's our little enemy. He kills us every time we touch him. And it's all fun and games. So there you go. That's the basis of adding this very simple little enemy with a very basic AI to the game. But yeah, everything works perfectly fine. We're all happy and dandy. So thank you for watching this episode of our Unity 2D tutorial. I'll be back again. I think in the next episode we'll need to deal with a way to how are you going to kill this enemy. So next time we'll take a look at adding projectiles from our player to shoot him with. So thanks for watching, everybody. I'll be back soon with more tutorial goodness in the very near future.